live from Exponential 2017 with the FAA's Earl Lawrence. So, hot seat time. Earl, what's happening at the FAA these days in regards to the unmanned community? What are the hot ticket items?
Well, I think the big hot ticket item is just the actual implementation and making real the Part 107 rule and just everything that means. It was hard to imagine. I was sitting here realizing that this time last year we didn't have a Part 107 rule, and now we do, and we've got close to 50,000 registered pilots now, licensed pilots, they're PIC, and it's just an exciting difference. And now it's all about making their dreams come true and being able to support all those operations.
It was interesting. The industry looked at the FAA for the last couple of years as, okay, sooner or later they've really got to jump in. And there was a tremendous amount of fear and trepidation about when and how that was going to occur. But to be perfectly honest, while nobody, quote unquote, wants to be regulated, the rollout so far has been beyond expectation. You guys are doing good, which just scares us all to death because, there used to be this combative relationship, and all of a sudden there's not only cooperation, but there's a synergy here that we haven't seen before, and what appears to be a culture shift a bit at the FAA under Mike's leadership. Michael Huerta's definitely done what he promised to do a couple of years ago, and we were kind of all at the time going, yeah, sure, but yeah, sure is yeah, real.
No, you use the key word that I love, and that's collaboration. And really that's been the key to successfully integrating any new activity into our national airspace system or anywhere else. If we don't do it collaboratively, it'll slow things down. And so we rely on the industry, and as we always say, it's a shared accountability. What does FAA focus on? Safety. But who achieves that safety? The people who are flying the machines, the people who are operating them, who are building them, who are maintaining them. And that collaboration is showing, and it's expanding, and now we have so many people helping us with the Drone Advisory Committee, the Unmanned Aircraft Safety Committee. We've got a couple more ARCs we're looking at launching here soon.
The scary part is we're really working together, aren't we?
That's right,
What happened?
What happened? Well, we want to get things done.
Yeah.
And we want to do it, we all want to do it safely. And, a new industry kind of prompts us all because we're all excited about all the possibilities that we're seeing here.
Well, one of the things, talking to Brian a little while ago, I said one of the things I got out of my X-Prize experience was that ultimately, when you looked at the long picture, there was no downside to disruption because change was going to happen. The question is how it was going to happen, and ultimately trying to steer it all in the right direction, or at least in a smoother direction than we've seen some rollouts of some types of technology. Right now, unmanned is not just the latest new technology, it is a society changer. It's a world game changer. And to a certain extent, the job that the FAA has right now is no longer regulate an environment, but it is to build and collaborate on a whole new future.
You mentioned its effect on society. And that goes with our safety mission too. A lot of people ask me, well, when is safe enough? Well, society decides what's safe enough. And that's constantly changing, and the expectation of us be constantly moving that safety line forward and introducing new products and safety equipment is all part of that. And as you said, how do we build, this is our true challenge, how do we build a regulatory framework that supports this innovation, that supports safety advancing at a constant rate while not locking us down? We just rewrote Part 23 here, and we're all excited about it, but why? That rule had gathered over time specific solutions. We're trying to avoid mandating a specific solution, but finding that way to say, if you do this, you can do this operation safely, and regardless of what technology you're using, it'll be good and accepted.
Well, one of the most exciting things, and especially when you bring up Part 23, it was more than, okay, let's update the regulations. It was, let's change the culture.
Yes.
And the part that's particularly enticing about that is it appears to be going from one end of the FAA to the other. I mean, it's not just one section or whatever. It seems to be pretty pervasive.
It really is. But I like to point out, it's not a brand new transition. This has been going on for decades. The one that I always
But it
think,
sure hit its stride in the last couple of years.
well, thank you, Michael. As you mentioned, we have great leadership that's really been driving us to embrace these changes and this culture. We've got flight standards reorganizing with that culture. There's just so much going on in the agency that says this is the right way to achieve safety, and I keep coming back to that because that's what's important to us. And we're there as that public regulator to protect safety, not to stop innovation. And in fact, one of the big struggles we are is how can we facilitate new things coming forward. I've seen it around the hall here today. It is so neat. I made a comment. We were taking a quick tour this morning before the administrator gets here, and we're going to show him some key things. I was noticing how people are building their technologies around the limited regulations we already have now, but they're keeping that in mind as far as how they might operate over people and what are the kind of things. So safety culture is getting integrated into them, which helps us not have to have a heavy touch or a very dictatorial touch on what the solutions are to maintain safety.
Well, let's talk about some of the specific issues that are on the agenda right now to the average commercial drone operator right now. Obviously, waivers and permissions are a big deal, and of course,
Yes.
to a certain extent, the problems that you have are a measure of the success you've had in the rollout.
Right.
Just, here it is, and all of a sudden, wow, we can do this. But at the same time, there's a tremendous amount of infrastructure and resources that need to be built up around that. What's the state of it now, and what do you expect to happen over the next year or two in regards to that issue?
Well, you did highlight the thing. As I always say, it's the pace of change and the volume of operations that we haven't had to deal with before. In order to deal with that pace of change and that volume, we have to automate ourselves within the FAA as much as we can and add these computer tools. And so that really has been our focus. As you mentioned, airspace authorizations. We need to automate those. And you saw last week, we took one of our first steps of releasing the first group of maps that will be the basis for that automation in the future. And those maps will now come out on a 56-day cycle. They'll continue to improve. We'll have well over 900 of them by the end of the year. And the automation to go with it, you talked about how we're collaborating so much. We're only doing it because we are collaborating, because we're using our taxpayer money smartly. We're concentrating on what does the government have to provide. We have to provide that base information, and then we're sharing it with our industry partners who will provide those apps and those navigation equipment and all these other good things that, on our phones that we like. That's not our best skill set, but we need to provide them the basic information, and they can advance it even better. And this time next year, I hope you can get your airspace authorization on your iPhone sitting right here at XPONENTIAL, and we'll be talking about that.
Outstanding. Well, that'd be a dream come true for a lot of folks. The other hot button issues for the moment are going to be a continued reliance or request for BVLOS, night ops, and then of course operations near or over populated areas, i.e. gatherings of people and so forth. What solutions look to be have the most potential for the moment?
Well, certainly night ops is our number one waiver today. 68% of the waivers are to operate at night, and they're getting to be fairly common, and that's helping educate our rulemaking activities. So now that we know what are the normal requirements, we're looking forward to updating on our next rulemaking package, night operations, so you don't have to apply for the waiver. But those are pretty straightforward in achieving today. So then you mentioned operations over people. I think the ARC gave us great information. We had a couple weeks ago the release from our Center of Excellence of the data package that can help improve that even more. So they gave us a whole new study that helps us understand not just the physics of real drones, not just the physics numbers, but actually real drones hitting people, getting that data and influencing what our rulemaking package will be going forward, because we're looking forward to supporting that. On beyond line of sight, we've got great operations going on with the waivers now. I know it's not across the country, but I don't think sitting here last year we would realize it would be a standard issuance waiver to do a couple of miles square of a farm field. That Precision Hawk would be doing that, and they would then share that with everyone else, which they did at the FAA symposium, and said, here's how we did it. You can copy it and do the same thing, and we can cover thousands of acres of land on every flight. We're getting there. It's step by step. As we know, complicated airspace is complicated, but we need to make being safe in that easy, and that's what we're concentrating on.
What can we look forward to hearing from the FAA for the foreseeable future outside of what we've discussed? Anything on the horizon that we need to keep an eye out for? Just between you and I, of course.
Yeah, I mean, between me and you and our audience out there.
Those
folks out there.
Ignore the people behind the camera.
Yeah, so
too.
ignore the people behind the camera. We're going to be continuing, as was mentioned by the administrator at the symposium, we're focusing on ID and tracking technologies. We have a congressional mandate in that area to focus on ID and tracking efforts, and that'll be a big focus this summer. We've learned, we worked with AUVSI and we worked with MITRE Corporation. We did a call for papers a few months ago for technologies for IDing. I mean, we got well over 40 solutions, and as I was explaining to some of the congressional staffers we work with and others that ask about this, is I don't have a lack of solutions. The industry has a tremendous amount of great things that'll work. It's how do we develop a framework that doesn't necessarily pick one but allows them to operate. So that's our big challenge, ID and tracking, and that once that's in place, that opens up beyond line of sight, makes it a little bit easier. It makes our law enforcement partners a little bit more comfortable. And there's just a lot of things that will come from that once we standardize those type of operations. So I see that as the big challenge for us this summer.
Well, I'll tell you what, it'll be interesting watching what happens, and of course, writing about what happens for Aero-News. We'll be looking forward to following up with you as time goes on. I assume we'll see you at Oshkosh?
Absolutely. I'll be there on vacation.
Oshkosh is a vacation.
Never heard of that, huh?
Man, honest to God, I think the last one, I was 16 years old. It was my first one. It was the only one I can legitimately call a vacation. After that, I started writing and everything else, and Oshkosh has just become this yearly trek and this only place in the world I could possibly be.
Yes.
The one thing you want to know, whenever Oshkosh is, I'm there.
This will be 31 years in a row for me. So.
Yeah, just you, I, and a couple 100,000 of our closest friends.
That's right.
There we go. Earl, as always, we thank so much for your time. And I got to tell you, as somebody who's had a whole lot of fun pointing out the issues with the FAA over the years, this administration and this group has really, I think, exceeded our expectations in a lot of ways, and you have no idea how much that hurts me to say it.
I don't think that hurts you. I think you love it. So thank you.
Actually, I do, and I thank you much.
Aero-News Network's coverage of the Association for Unmanned Vehicle Systems International's XPONENTIAL 2017, live from Dallas, Texas, is brought to you in part by the following sponsors.
Continental Motors Group. Manned and unmanned, Continental has been a pivotal part of aviation and aerospace history and wants to be a part of your mission. Gas or diesel, certified or experimental, Continental is investing in your future. www.continentalmotors.aero.
Let Patrick Neal & Associates provide the legal expertise needed to navigate the commercial UAS industry. Whether it be waivers, exemptions, operational plans, or other issues, we can provide the guidance you need to keep flying and building your successful UAS operation. www.droneattorneys.us
In collaboration with NASC, introducing Sonix Aerospace, bringing you the Taros Group 4 UAS, the redesigned Tiger Shark Block 4, and the Subsonics Twin Jet UAS, all derived from flight-proven manned systems, not concepts, real aircraft. More at sonixaerospace.com.